Good morning. Good morning. I can see that we've got, I feel like Miss Julie. I'm going to go through these names. I've got April Oakes, Becky Rodriguez, Mr. BP is in the house, Delphine Accord, and we got Jeremy. And I'm assuming we'll get more to join. And of course, if you're not aware, we are going to be changing the format of the coaching call to include at times interviewees. So we're going to be interviewing agents who are going to give us their tips, their tricks, their answers to the vexing questions of how to succeed in real estate in today's challenging market. And we've got none other than the indomitable Aubrey Kelly as a guest today for our first interview. So he gets to be the first person to be interviewed on this new format of interviews for the Monday coaching call. So, Mr. Aubrey Kelly, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. I can hear you.
All right, good. Cool. I know that you were looking for me. I slipped away for a minute, but I am, as you can see, I am ensconced in my chair. So
You're fine, yeah.
All right. Well, it's good to see you. And he's standing up. I love it. Look at you. Nice and professional. I got the vest on, the tie, the jacket.
Yeah, I have clothing today, so gotta look good.
You mean business. I love it.
I do, yeah.
That's great. Well,
Just trying to get like you.
Before we get into business, let's get personal. So, just very quickly, if you can, I know you're not from here. I mean, I know pretty much the broad details of your personal story, but maybe those of those that are on the call that aren't familiar with you, or maybe don't know your personal story, kind of give us just some background. Where are you from? How long you been in Utah? Married? Kids? No kids? Of course, I know you got a beautiful son named James, and
Yeah.
you know that detail. But just share with everybody who you are.
Yeah. So, thanks, John. I'm from Detroit, Michigan. I have been in Utah for just a little over 5 years now. Came here because my beautiful wife, Rebecca, she's from here, and yeah, we're married. We've been married, oh gosh, almost 9 years now, coming up on 9 years in March. We have our little son, James, who's actually adopted. He's awesome. We love him. It's a great story there. I mean, if you want to learn more about that, I guess it's a long story, but long story short, he was just a miracle in our life. We had you know, our two dogs we came here to Utah with, really no direction on where we wanted to move to, and after college, but we landed here in Utah, and we plan on staying as long as I guess as we're welcome here. So yeah, no, I mean, pretty much just been real estate. This is going to my third year full time.
How did you get into real estate?
So funny story. I don't think I mentioned this really before. But I actually we were trying to buy a house when we moved here in 2019. We were renting a house here in Midvale where we stayed now, that area. But we were renting the home. The landlord would say, "Hey, would you want to buy this home?" We said, for $300,000, there's no way we're buying this 5-bedroom, 2-bathroom with a basement apartment house. And so, I mean, now of course I regret that. But we just really weren't sure, about real estate. I had a few agents talk to me, and just, really kind of, I think we only qualified for like 325 at the time. And I wanted to learn more about real estate and how I can better position ourselves to have a more successful future. I mean, just being able to buy a home. We were looking, this is 2020, by the way, we were looking for a home. And of course, the home sold for more over asking price. And we were just like dumbfounded on how that happened. And like, I had some experience in finance and banking and in accounting, but just wasn't really familiar with the real estate world. And I wanted to learn more about it. So, and I'll plug Sean here. Actually, I was working 2 jobs. I was in sales at Summit Vista as a retirement community. I was one of the 2 salespeople there. And then I had my night job. I did Lyft, and Sean Hilton actually he introduced me to Kenzie, and he said you should just come over and just see what we're about, and from there it's kind of the rest is history.
Oh man, so I didn't realize that. So Sean Hilton's the reason that you came over here.
Yeah, no, yeah, he said give Kenzie a call, and or she called me actually, and he probably knew I wouldn't call anybody. So he got my number and but I answered and I came to the office and she met me at like 6 o'clock, I think with Ruby as well. Met me at 6 o'clock every night I wanted to, or Jason. Because I had my job and I'm still trying to figure things out. But
Right.
yeah.
Cool. That's great. So you've been in real estate now for 3 years. This is last year was last year your first full year, or was it 23 that was your first full year?
23 was my first full year. Last was my second full year.
Okay, so 2023 was your first full year. If you don't mind sharing, how much did you make that first full year in real estate?
I mean, just over, I think 140,000. Just I think I had a couple contracts kind of roll over into this last year, but it was, I think, gross about 160 for those people, and then I had a couple contracts come over to that last year, which kind of made me look a little bit better. So
Okay. Okay.
yeah.
So you made, give or take, about $150,000, somewhere between 140 and $150,000. And then what did you do last year? The reason I'm asking this is because obviously I want those who are watching this to understand, your journey, how long you've been in the business, a relatively short period of time, and how quickly, again, relatively speaking, how you brought your income up to some pretty substantial numbers, given what, a lot of agents are struggling to do in today's marketplace. So what did you do last year?
Last year I was just at, and I was looking at these numbers recently, just over 180 for last year. I want to say 186, just to give you exact numbers. I don't know exactly, but about just under. I was supposed to be at 200, but then I had some stuff happen. We're closing today on one of my listings and another
Okay.
end of the month, but it was just, yeah. So it's been really good though. So I mean, I'm still grateful that I was able to do that much even the last year.
Yeah. So, and what's your goal this year?
This year, put me on the spot. This year,
You do have an answer, I'm sure.
I do have an answer. So this year I would like to do 480.
Okay, that's great.
Goal.
That's great. Okay, and do you believe that's possible?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
Otherwise you wouldn't have set the goal, right?
No.
Yeah, it's interesting because as we watch what the market has done, it's definitely arguable that 2023 was an easier market than 2024. I think that as you take a look at where interest rates were for the whole of 2024, they were definitely higher than they were in 2023, and yet you increased your income by somewhere around $50,000 over what you did in 2023. So I guess the question that everybody's going to have is, first of all, how did you do that? How did you make that amount of money in your rookie year? How did you increase it in the subsequent year, which was arguably a more difficult year? What's happening? What gives?
So I think that's a great question. I think for the most part, I think this last year I was more focused on, and I would say last year was probably more on accountability.
Mm-hmm.
So I do every morning, April Oaks and Delphine Accord, we all are on a Zoom call together and we hold each other accountable. Also had some accountability with Jason Carlson and coaching with George. I think that having that accountability in place and helping me hone in on my disciplines, which I think I actually prospected a little less, I shouldn't say that, but I prospected a little less overall last year. But I think the quality of my prospecting was a lot better.
No doubt.
So,
No doubt. And I've watched that progression in your ability to the role plays, the quality of the conversations, and your confidence in that process as well.
yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. In fact, one of the things I would say, just observing you, is that number one, I've watched your level of participation. It's among the best in the company in terms of the events that we offer, particularly Morning Ascent. I would say that there are very few who are as consistent as you. There are some who are, but very few are as consistent as you in that participation. But then the other thing I've watched you do is get coached consistently.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, to your point, I think that's helped a lot in your progression. So,
yeah.
So paint a picture for us in terms of what you're doing on a daily basis that's allowed you to, in your rookie year, make what you made, because you were the rookie of the year in 2023, and made nearly 200,000 in your second full year.
So I think, and I think this is something I'm kind of known for. And I think even with this last month, I don't want to make it an excuse, but I love just talking to people. I think just having those conversations, those harder conversations, and doing the things that people don't want to do, like calling a for sale by owner or calling an expired listing. They're like pretty tough sometimes, but I think for me, I think it's been just consistently doing that and making the
So let me ask you a question, because there are going to be people on this Zoom call who say, yeah, but I'm not the sort of person who likes to have conversations with people. So what would you say to
you're probably in the wrong business.
that?
That, and also
Okay.
I think in a sense we all are. Um, I mean, we're social creatures. We like to communicate. We like to, and I think you talked about this a lot. Is I mean, just our primitive mind is that we want to be a part of a tribe. We want to be part of something. Like we
Right,
have to have that. I think that kind of nurturing or feeling good within
right.
ourselves. I think a lot of the times people think, and just don't take my word for it, just do it yourself. Like when you prospect, keep track of the people that yell at you. Because I've door knocked or I've called, and I can count on one hand how many people have either yelled at me or have been aggressive with me out of the hundreds of people that I talk to, like, throughout a week.
Isn't that interesting that
Yeah.
the number of interactions that you've had, the
Mhm.
vast majority of people are kind and interactive, and it's the exception rather than the rule that ends up being mean or nasty or negative experience.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm closing on a home right now. I sold in Sandy today at 3 o'clock, and I met the guy because I was door knocking. I just met him and I talked to him. He doesn't look like the person that you would normally walk up to either. He's just kind of just kind of a rough looking guy, but he's just,
Right.
one of the nicest guys ever. I mean, just kind of stepping out of that shell that we're always kind of putting ourselves into and feeling like, oh, I don't want to. And it's not to say that, you should just talk to everybody. Of course, that's, I mean, that's ideal, but I mean, stepping out of our comfort zone. Even talk to people in your SOI. I've even seen April Oaks do such a great job just keeping in touch with the SOI and just and with a few other people that I can mention, just Brenda Lee Jones and just a few others. But just having that conversation with people and not being afraid to ask for the business. I think a lot of us are afraid to do that. I'm not going to say us. I mean, I am too. I'm afraid to
So
knock
let's
on.
let's 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 be clear on that. So
Yeah.
maybe today you're not as reluctant, use the word afraid, but as reluctant today as you were 2 or 3 years ago.
Oh yeah.
But you still experience reluctance. You still experience that fear.
Yeah. I mean, even knocking on a $200,000 condo versus a $2 million home, I still feel that apprehension or that reluctance, like you said. It's not me saying, hey, I'm afraid they're going to say no to me. It's I think now, okay, this person needs me, or I think, how can I help this person? And I think that's the approach I take now instead of, oh,
Right.
I'm scared they're going to say no to me.
So you bring to the opportunity, that circumstance, a different mindset than maybe that you did or were able to 2 or 3 years ago. And yet, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, you were prospecting. Were you prospecting consistently, relatively consistently, somewhat consistently?
Relatively consistently, I would say I probably knocked on a lot more doors then, because my skill sets or my knowledge wasn't as much as it is today, and I'm still working. I still have a lot of room to grow. I think then though, I honestly didn't know how to put together a Rep C. Like I didn't know how to negotiate an offer. I didn't know how to list a home, but I still knocked on people's doors and I still call people and I still talk to them and I still followed up with them. And I think it wasn't until after I think Jason Carlson, he told me that if you're going to, you know, follow up somebody, just be aggressive. And that sounds like hostile, but like, really mean it, and when you're following up with people and not just kind of sheepishly, call them once every 6 months, hoping that they're gonna somehow decide to do something then instead of, why not once a week or, twice a week, follow up with people that are interested right now. So,
Absolutely. I mean, I have to tell you from my personal experience, and I think you could affirm this in your personal experience, that there are clients who will select you because of that consistency and that doggedness in being consistent at, as Jason says, being aggressive. You can call it aggressive if you want to use that term, but I just say being consistent, doing my job. People want to see that you're actually interested, that you're disciplined, and that you're going to follow through. And the number of times that I had a client say to me when they chose me, the reason we chose you is because you were consistent in following up with us.
Yeah. And that's huge. That's probably the only reason I work with the clients that I work with. Is I stay in front of them. Like really, like that's, and it could
Right.
be a for sale by owner or an expired or um a, a door knock. It's just because I was in front of them. It wasn't, I didn't say any, there's a little magic pill or secret script that I'm not telling everybody. It's just really just being in front of people and talking to them.
So it's interesting. I mean, you said this without saying this, just in kind of recounting your story, that in the beginning you were pretty consistent at prospecting, but and it was all pretty much door knocking. Would you say 80% door knocking?
I would say 90% door knocking.
90% door knocking. And despite the fact that you didn't really know what you were doing, to your point, you said that I knocked a lot more doors 3 years ago than you are knocking now, because obviously your skill set's better. And because your skill set's better, the conversations are slower. You're getting more in depth, building more rapport, and setting more appointments. But yet, 3 years ago, you were knocking a lot of doors. So what would you say to somebody who says, well, I'm not very good at door knocking, or I've never done it before? What would your advice be?
Just start. I think it just like with anything, you're not good at something, you're never going to be good at it until you start it. So, I mean, I wasn't good at having that conversation about the listing conversation or a listing presentation, but the more I did, the better I got at it. So,
Okay, so if you can, maybe, because I know this is what I would be wanting to hear from you at this point, if I were an agent out there wanting to do what you're doing. What are some of the cheat codes then, if I want to prospect knocking doors specifically? What are some of the cheat codes? What is it you've learned over the last few years that they could leverage to maybe give them an advantage so that their learning curve isn't as steep as the one that you experienced?
I think a cheat code, I think I've stumbled upon this a few times, was just really just, and this is, I mean, we all know this, but knocking on areas that you're familiar with. I mean, whether it's a for sale by owner or a just listed, just sold, or it's your neighbors, go to an area that you really believe in. Like, and then this is a kind of a weird story, but I actually remember the first time knocking on here off of Newcastle, on Sunridge Drive. It was around this time. It was about, actually it was probably October of November, December of 23. I pulled up to the neighborhood and I parked my car, and I was like, I want to live in this neighborhood. I love the neighborhood and I believed in the neighborhood, and I was like, this is the neighborhood I could see my family living in. And I knocked all the doors, and I didn't get anything that day. The next day I knocked all the doors, didn't get anything. I had some good conversations, met some great people.
Right.
I think I just consistently did it. And it was a neighborhood I loved. I still love to this day, and I'll still knock it. It wasn't until I think 6 months later I sold a $1.2 million home in the neighborhood.
Very cool.
I never really did anything crazy. Just, it was an area I believed in. I kept consistently going to. It wasn't just I didn't knock the doors once and then hope somebody would call me. I left my card. I
You
knocked
kept knocking them over and over.
exactly, and they saw my face and they saw that, hey, we've talked to you before, and it was easier to talk to these people because I've talked to them before.
Now, how much time did you let go in between those conversations? So when that person said, "Hey, we've talked to you before,"
This is probably bad. So I did let a few months because he actually listed his home for sale by owner. However, I did keep in touch with him. He saw me all the time. He walked his dog. I'd say hi to him. I think, and it wasn't necessarily me just having the conversation, but as much as him seeing me. He says, "I saw you in the neighborhood, and I see you all the time." And
see you working.
yeah. So
I'm
he wasn't.
assuming that's what he meant. I see you all the time. So obviously you're doing your job.
Exactly. So and from that point, I didn't let a day go by talking to him once he said that. So once I think people show interest, and it's not like I'm calling him every day. I'll send him a text message. I'll send him an email. I'll drop off some cookies. Like I drop off Crave cookies to their home after a listing appointment. And I think that was that was kind of my secret for taking listings, because if I couldn't be smart enough, at least I could be sweet enough, and I was able to,
Yeah,
really just impress them with how much I cared about them, and I really did. So
yeah. So that the part about that that I'm most interested in, I want to just backtrack a little bit, is not so much that point where he said, "Yeah, we're interested," and you maintain contact with him every day. It's more about that process that led up to that moment. So maybe be a little bit more descriptive on what that looks like for you. You chose a neighborhood, you knocked the doors. Um, how often would you knock those doors? Would you cycle through that community every month, every 2 months? What did that look like? And what would you say when somebody answered the door?
that's a great question. So I wasn't as consistent as I would be now, and in knocking and planning on knocking. I would say something along the lines of, I'm a local realtor, just in your neighborhood. I'm just letting all the neighbors know buyers are still looking to move here. And I would ask them if have you considered. I would actually ask if they've considered selling, or I'd ask if they considered buying. And they would say buying, like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, do you need to sell your home? And it'll be the pressure's immediately off of them. Like they don't feel like I'm just trying to get a listing. It's more of a conversation around, you know, I and this was another in the same neighborhood. I picked up some buyers who just bought the home maybe 6 or 7 months ago. And I asked them that question. I said, yeah, we actually have thought about buying. We would like to invest. And we closed on a home
Interesting.
3 months later. From the moment I talked to them on their porch to the closing table, they were sold because they just felt comfortable. They felt safe. And they didn't feel like I was forcing anything. And um, I do, and I pick a neighborhood. It's a pretty big neighborhood. I would pick. I would probably do maybe um, like 1 or 2 square miles, and I would just kind of cycle through the neighborhood. And then if people were setting appointments, I would go back and go to the appointment. But I would continue to do the neighborhood. This is what I would do now.
Right.
And every month, I would start over in that area and start somewhere new as well in
Okay.
that same kind of area. So
Right.
it wouldn't be just knocking the doors, asking. I would hopefully set an appointment, list a home, or do something, or have even an agent here at the company that's listing a home. And I would go back and say, hey, just wanted to let you know we just listed your neighbor's home. And I would say their name. So I would say, hey, John, just wanted to let you know we just sold, or we just listed your neighbor's home for sale. And I know we talked last month, and I wanted to just check in to see, have you had any plans on moving in the near future yourself?
That's great.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, very cool. Okay. So what other cheat codes would you share? So obviously get to the doors despite your experience, knock the doors. In fact, what I heard you say is the best way to learn how to do it is to just do it. So many
Um,
agents get ready to get ready so that maybe they'll be ready when they're ready. And of course that never happens until you actually do the job. It's the question that I always ask people, how did you learn to swim? Because you didn't learn to swim watching others do it. You didn't mimic their motions on the deck and do that thing. Somebody threw you in.
yeah.
So beyond that, what would you say? What else could you share with them that would shorten their learning curve?
I would say get better at more than just one mode of prospecting. I mean, obviously, I love knocking doors, and just even this last month, I was sick, so I really hadn't been out very much. Um, but even still, I mean, in December, I went out a few times, and I would call as well. So I would, get in this. I think this was last year. I focused more or less just on building my skill set of being on the phone. So if
Mhm.
I do knock someone's door and I do get their number, when I get their number, I'm going to call them. I'm going to add them to that call list so that they're not only just seeing me on the doors, they're seeing me, they're hearing me on the phone, they're getting something in the mail, they're getting an invitation to an event, they're they're being serviced at all levels, and it's not just one mode. It's a few different. I would say at least 2 to 3 modes of prospecting where they're involved, and you're keeping them involved, and it's whether or not they do anything. I've been referred clients from people that have not bought a piece of real estate. So
Interesting. And why is that? Why would you say that? Is it because of the consistency of your contacting them, or what is that?
I, I would say adding value to their lives too. I mean, being consistent, but also I'm not just there to sell them something. I'm here to help. I'm here to share with you, whether it's updated market report, or hey, come to this event. And we're not, I'm not, I mean, we're not perfect about um keeping the value to, I'm gonna give you money, I'm gonna give you all these things, but I think it's more or less they see that I actually am, in front of them, and I'm actually um showing them that I'm a professional in my field. I'm not just this random guy that's just knocking on your door. And I think that a lot of the times people can and I hear this from people all over saying, hey, agents are just you're just looking to just get a quick buck. And it's not,
Right.
it's not quick at all. It's of course I can make as much as I want. I can control that. But if I'm not putting the effort in, if I'm not adding the value, first I don't. And I think Tiger Woods, he said this one time: if I'm not putting the work, first of all, I won't get the results, and second of all, I don't deserve it. And so I think for me, putting in that work and putting in the time, putting in the effort, not just knocking on the door, getting to know them, doing your research, looking up, homes that have been in the area, talking to the people, getting to know them. I think that's where it starts, just getting to know the person instead of, and I would say just even if they don't buy anything or sell anything with you, at least you've developed a relationship with someone that can refer you or put your name out there for good instead of just, oh, he didn't really care about me.
Right.
Yeah, so
Right.
I always think
Well,
it's easier for somebody to put a negative review than it is for a good review. So I try to avoid them if anything, but try to make them at least a positive review. So
yeah, absolutely. Try to build as many raving fans, even if you're not doing business with them. So
yeah.
uh, there are two questions I want to ask about what you hand them at the door, if you have anything. But before I get to that, as it relates to these conversations and your prospecting at the door, uh, what um, what would you say is the most common response that you get from people at the door? What are they saying to you?
Surprisingly, they just say no. They
Okay,
straight up say no. And I mean, if you want to role play it, we can do it.
sure, let's do it. That'd be
Okay, it's
great.
really quick. Yeah. So I'll knock on your door and I'll just, quick.
Hello. Hey.
Hey, my name's Aubrey. I'm a local realtor. I'm just with Century 21. I'm just around the area. I'm actually letting people know buyers are still looking to move into this neighborhood. As far
Okay.
as are you the homeowner?
I am.
Great. And as far as yourself, any plans on making a move in the near future?
No, we've been here a couple of years. We're planning on staying at least for the next 3, 4 years.
Oh, for the next 3, 4 years. Okay,
Yeah.
great. Well, again, I don't want to take too much of your time. As far as yourself, I mean, is there anything that you would change about your home or that you would like in a new home?
Oh yeah, I'd like a yard.
A yard, okay.
Yeah.
The yard is important. That's great. And is there a certain area you like to be in?
Yeah, I'd probably want to be in the East Sandy area.
East Sandy area. Okay, great. I specialize in that area. I'd love to show you, I mean, what homes are out there. And even if you don't make a move, like you said, in the next 3 or 4 years, I'd love to be a resource for you. So when you are ready to make that move, at least you have somebody working on the ground for you.
Sure.
And yeah, and I would of
And then
course
just
get their
go from
name
there.
and stuff like that. But even if
How do
they
they
said,
respond when you do that? Do a lot of people say sure, and you ask for their contact information, they provide it?
yeah, if the conversation is going well and it's flowing, if it doesn't feel forced, a lot of the times they will give me their information. I think I can remember again on one hand, I can count the people that said no, I won't give you my information. If the conversation is great, if it's flowing, and if you're in rapport, you're probably going to get some like
Right.
email, phone number from them. I mean, only people that are, I mean, having a bad day are not going to tell you their name. So it's like,
Right.
that's okay. I don't
And
have to your name.
and it's because they're having a bad day.
Yeah.
Okay, that's
I'll
fine.
come back to them. I'll actually, if somebody says no, I'll come back to their house again and I'll say, hey,
I love
my name's Aubrey. What was your name again? And they say, oh, you already talked to me. I'm like, oh, I didn't get your name though. And I'll be as friendly
it.
as possible just because I know we don't really know what's going on in people's lives. I think we
Right.
assume almost to the point where um, it's almost like they hate us. Like, no, they don't hate us. We're knocking on their door. We're calling them. Like, because remember, we're intruding in their lives, and we're just trying to find out how we can help them. Of course, we know that, but how do we let them know that we are just trying to help them out? Like,
Right.
that's my job is to not necessarily force you to do anything, but to inform and to help you. So
So you mentioned that I think you said that you will hand them something if you're door knocking. Do you always door knock with something that you hand them, or is that something you do occasionally, or what does that look like?
That's occasionally. So I won't hand them anything unless I just sold a home or I'm doing an open house or if I'm just dropping off it's kind of like a pop by.
Okay,
I I keep my phone in my hand. So and I don't know, I probably got this from tips from realtors when I first got into the business just on YouTube. But I think it offers a lot less um like and this is probably they don't know what I'm here to do. I could
right.
be with the church. I could be with, the Boy Scouts or whatever. Like they don't know. So it almost opens it up for them. And they don't know. I had one guy say, "Are you selling pest control?" I said, "No, I'm selling homes." And then it kind of, he kind of chuckled
That's
about it,
interesting.
So
Right,
so it just opens it up more. And with my phone, they're not just saying, "Hey, give me a card." I get their number. So
I
it's like,
see.
do you have a card? Do you have a flyer? It's like, oh no, this is kind of one of my things you guys can take it. I'll say, like if you ask me for a card and I say, hey, no, I talk too much. So I hand out all my cards already. What's your phone number? And I'll get their phone number and they'll chuckle. I try to make it super light and just make it,
Absolutely.
yeah, just
Yeah.
easier for them to feel like they're not being sold on anything, even though, we're just having a conversation.
Well, I think that that has to go a long way towards the amount of times that you've done this and you've gotten comfortable with it. You know how to interact with these people in these situations. And because you come across comfortable and relaxed, it permits them to do the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Absolutely.
obvious. So, okay, so if you could outline what your day looks like, because I think that if we're going to achieve what somebody else has achieved, it's important to know what they do with their time. Otherwise, we're just guessing. So, what does your day look like? If I want to make, a couple $100,000 a year, I want to do what Aubrey Kelly's doing. So, what does Aubrey Kelly do with his time?
It's a great question too. A lot of good questions. So first thing I do is I moan and groan, get out of bed, go to the gym.
You too?
Yeah, yeah, it's a daily ritual of mine. Go to the gym. I try to wake up at 4:30, 4:35 if I'm feeling sleepy. Um, really,
That's the time you wake up is 4:30?
yeah.
Okay.
4:30, get out of bed. And it gives me some time to kind of, get my mindset right. I'll throw on either some scriptures and some minds. Actually, I do scriptures in the morning and then on my way to the gym. And then when I get to the gym, I start listening to some mindset, whether it's Jim Rohn. I listen to a lot of Jim Rohn, Earl Nightingale, um, really whoever. It's just giving me something positive to feed my mind. I got that um from Justin Nudie actually. He said and I was like, that's the strangest thing I ever heard. Just lifting all this weight and really just listening to something that's positive.
Right.
It's helped tremendously. I mean, I've even just
You
when I'm
increase your bench?
I've increased my bench. I have, yeah. Increased my I
Zig's
feel
saying you can do it.
yeah. Well, I just feel a lot better. I think
Of
instead of
course.
having to
Yeah.
shuffle music and it's in the negative music, even though music's not all bad, I just think you're able to focus on something a lot more instead of just
I 100% agree. I mean, if you think about it, you're listening to something that's improving your mindset. And when our mindset is improved, of course, we know it has an impact on our physical self. So I can see how it would improve your workouts.
yeah. So
Yeah.
it's
Okay.
just great. So
So,
I go
so
from
then
there.
what's next?
Yeah, go from there, go home. Either and this is something I did last year a lot of and kind of interfered with, morning ascent, but I would have breakfast with my family. If they're up and if they're hanging out, I'll have breakfast with them and hang out with them for a little bit and try to make some morning ascent. I'll uh attend morning ascent as often as I can. I think that's another thing for my mindset, especially going into prospecting after that. Um, I think that's probably one of the most important meetings to me is morning ascent.
Why is it?
I think that's what I really saw the most um, transformation in not only who I am as a person, but who I'm becoming
Hmm.
is attending the morning meeting and learning from even like people like yourself or Ruby or Jason or George or whoever's doing Russ morning ascent. I think building the skill sets and also building your mindset is I mean, they go hand in hand. And I think having that consistent meeting has helped me to transform the way I think about things and the way I do things. Whether it's in business, and I say things, I mean in business, in my personal relationships, and in everything, financial. So I think you can learn so much just from being in the Morning Ascent and being in that environment where other people are wanting to grow and learn and to improve. I think having Morning Ascent has been, I mean, even the first day, I think this was maybe October, November. I came to my first Morning Ascent. I used to listen to it online every morning, but I think when I first came to Morning Ascent, I was actually driving to work, and I took the wrong turn, and I came to the office and told my boss I was sick. I lied, but I told her I was lying later on. But I came to Morning Ascent, and there I think I had kind of another story there, a pivotal moment in my life where I decided to quit my full-time job and do real estate full-time, because this is a full-time job, by the way.
Yeah.
It's not just
Full-time plus.
yeah, it's full-time plus. So
Right.
yeah, I think Morning Ascent. From
Okay.
there,
Then what's next?
prospecting. I'm on the phones. 9 to 11 is my dedicated time for being on the phones. I think that's been a ritual. I think I've been able to, and thank you again to April and Delphine. It's just been super helpful and helping me keep accountable there. 9 to 11 prospect, and from 11, of course, I get on a coaching call on Mondays. And
Of course you do. Yeah. Go
so
coaching call.
yeah, try to do some admin, but if it's a client or if it's something that I need to take care as far as admin, I'll do that from 11, or training from 11 to about 12, 12:30, and then I'll have lunch, and then I'll try to get, of course, through my appointments, or if I don't have appointments, I'm prospecting.
Okay. And prospecting is doors in the afternoon. When are you hitting doors?
Yeah, so doors. So I was doing doors really in the afternoons. Anytime. So and this is mostly just to avoid knocking on doors for hours and no one answering after school. So after 3 o'clock, anywhere from 3 until 7 in summer times, 7 or 8 o'clock. And this was my first year. I would get out there probably 12 o'clock, and I would get home until it was like dark. So
Yeah. Interesting. So what I'm hearing in your explanation of your schedule there, that there's nothing there that you're doing that we haven't heard before.
yeah, exactly.
It's all the basic stuff.
Yeah. And
So is there anything you're hiding from us? Is there
I
something
do role play. I do
What's
role play. I
that?
forgot about that.
Okay, role play.
Yeah, so role
All right.
play.
That's the secret. You were withholding that. I got that out of you. All right.
Yeah, so I role play just many, kind of going into the admin time, whether it's before Morning Ascent 7:30, or if it's at around my lunchtime during the admin time. Again, I try to protect my prospecting time like religiously. So I try not to like really, and sometimes, I mean, things happen. I'll make an exception for some things, but if it's, if it can be done afterwards, even if, a new client calling, I'll text them and say, hey, can I call you back later? I try to protect that time, because I think that's been crucial to me, just building my business and building that confidence I need to continue on to the next day. So
Right. Okay. So I want to open this up to questions from others who've been on the call patiently, of course, listening, and I'm sure coming up with their own questions, or they want clarification. Before we do that, though, what's the one bit of advice you would give an agent, whether they're brand new or they've been in the business for years, and they want 2025 to be their best year ever? Because I firmly believe that everyone listening to this call, listening to you talk about your experience and what you've accomplished, that they can have their best year in real estate, no matter how long they've been in the business, if they will just simply adopt what you've talked about. So what would you say?
I'd say there's three I would really put out there, and practice with the intention of someone in mind. So I mean, when I say practice, don't just read over the scripts, or just but practice with some intention, like, hey, this is a real thing that happened to me, or that I'm going through. and practice with that.
I see.
Prospect consistently, but also with the intention to set an appointment. Like my intention talking on the phone with you, and I'll be straight up with them. I'm like, I'd like to set an appointment with you. It's like prospect with that intention in mind, and then also participate. I think those three things: are practice, participate, and prospect. That's been, and I've seen how where I let it slip, or I won't do it as consistently. I see where it affects my business.
Do
And,
you really? So
yeah,
when you fall off of those, you see a direct impact on your business.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's especially prospecting. I think that that's how we make our money. That's how we really feed our business. So I think as my prospecting goes down, so do my deals.
So I said that was the last one, but I'm gonna ask one more question relative to that then. What do you do? What are some of the things that you do to ensure that you're consistent or more consistent than the typical agent?
I think having that accountability in place helps a lot, but and that goes for, just really anybody that I know. I have either my family that's keeping me accountable, whether it's my wife, asking how my day went, or making some time to have, I call it James time, but my son, spending time with him,
Yeah.
or it's an agent I'm working with, or if it's, anyone, coach I have, having accountability, but really emphasizing, and this is where it kind of goes in the morning, protecting your morning, and spending time in my why, understanding why I'm doing this, and building. I think that's why I said morning ascent so well. You'll probably see me with my journal. I have note cards in there, and every morning I write my gratitudes down, of course, but then I write down my intentions and also write down things that why I'm doing the things that I'm doing. So I write
So
them.
your intentions are written on the note cards, and you'll refer to that during the course of the day.
Intentions and goals are
I
written on
see.
there.
That's
Yeah.
great. That's cool. Okay, so let's open it up for questions. Let those who have questions that maybe I didn't answer or they want more clarification on, let's make that happen. So, gang, go ahead. Russ, are they able to? Because I see everybody's muted. Can we unmute them so that they can ask their questions?
Yeah, they can.
Okay, great. Gang, so just unmute yourself because now you've been unmuted generally, but now you've got to unmute yourself. Go ahead and ask your question. Becky, go ahead and ask the question.
Okay, sorry, just had to get
No,
that.
you're good.
So Aubrey, when you follow up with those that say maybe don't want to work with you now, what is your method for following up with them? Do you like pick a particular day? Do you have software that you're using, or how are you doing that?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So my system for following up, and of course I'm working on it like always. But I think my method for following up with people is either I'm going to directly call them, and if they're not answering the first time I call them, I'll call them the next day, and I'll call them every day for a couple of weeks. And if they don't answer for that couple of weeks, of course I can't call everybody every day. Within a couple of weeks, if they're not answering the phone and I'm leaving messages and doing the things that I'm supposed to be doing, I'll lessen that call to maybe twice a week. And then after about a month of doing that, I'll lessen it to maybe once a month of calling people that don't answer. People that do answer, you hear from me every day. Like you'll get a text message, you'll get an email, you'll get something from me. If it's somebody that's actively that's working with me. But if it's somebody that's not necessarily interested, I'll reach out to them, and it goes to, of course, kind of what we talked about in our in Morning Ascent, once a quarter. Eventually they'll get to hear from me once a quarter, whether it's an email or whether it's a phone call. Once I do get in touch with them, though, I start that process over again. So if they don't answer the phone again, I'm gonna call them once a day or text them or send them some type of contact until they either reach out to me or get back to me. And again, it sounds annoying, but you have to remember people aren't thinking about real estate every day. So they have to have somebody, of course, that reminds them of it, or someone that's going to reach out to them about it. Because we're thinking about it all day long. It seems like we're being annoying. And it goes back to kind of what Jason said. If we're not being aggressive, they're not going to work with us anyways. I mean, they're not going to No one's going to really, just say no one, not everyone's going to call you as soon as they think about real estate. Especially if you're not in the front of their mind. So just being in front of them, I think, is what helps people call you, but also it's what helps them think of you when they think about real estate, if that answers your question.
Great.
Yeah,
Awesome.
it does.
Becky.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah, great question, Becky. Okay, anybody else? As we wrap it up, but I do want to make certain you get an opportunity to ask questions. So, anyone? Kirk, BP, April, Andy, anybody? Sean? Okay, well, in that case, Aubrey, let me just say, and I mean this sincerely, thank you for taking the time out of your schedule, because the amount of money that you make and the fact that you follow a schedule consistently, I know that you've taken time away from your prospecting, because this is during your prospecting time. So I am very grateful, and I will speak for everybody else. I know that they are grateful as well that you took your time to share your experiences and your answers to the challenges that everybody's facing. And I know I got a lot out of it. I hope that everybody else walks away with that. I hope that those who listen took notes. And if they didn't, know that this, of course, is recorded, and they can go back and watch this. Russ will have this uploaded to the YouTube channel, so they can go ahead and watch this. So let's see. Dylan said that he, yeah, he said, my mic won't work, but do you recommend knocking a whole neighborhood or target knocking like expireds or FSBO?
A little bit of both. So I'll knock an expired door. And I know we have was it the 5, 10, and 5. I'll just knock the entire neighborhood. Like I'll go knock on their door and I'll ask the immediate neighbors, those five, was it 5 down, 10 across, and 5 back. I'll do that and I'll ask about that neighborhood, that specific house, but then I'll go around the whole neighborhood. I mean, don't
You're
spend,
there.
yeah, don't spend time driving into different expireds if you can just, capture somebody that day. And it's worked for, even I knocked an expired, and this is how I got one of my clients under contract in less than 3 months and sold actually in 3 months from knocking an expired door and then knocking, 15 houses down. I met them and they were probably one of my best clients just from knocking on doors.
That's awesome. That's great. Yeah, great question, Dylan. Great question. Okay. Anybody else? Going once, going twice, and sold. All right, Aubrey Kelly, thank you so much. You've been awesome. Really appreciate you taking the time to do that. I am very, very grateful. So, and here's to 2025 being your best year and everybody else's.
Hey, thanks, John.
Okay, all right. Have a great day.